Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings, friends, from wherever you are. Welcome to the International Webinar Ambassadors and Young Leaders Week 2020 with me, Ahmad Zaki Makarim, who will accompany our great speakers and moderators as the master of ceremonies during this event. The theme of this event will discuss about preparing Indonesian global emerging leaders in leadership, science and technology, and also morality and justice. This event will take over 2 hours from 8 p.m. until 10 p.m. Jakarta time, which will be moderated by Mr. Bani Arijan as the president of Indonesian Student Society in Sudan for the first session, and Mr. Adityo Dharma Putra as the president of Indonesian Student Society in Estonia for the second session. For your information, this event aims to stimulate a sense of awareness of the significance of international competitiveness, extensive networking, and global collaboration among Indonesian people. The ultimate goal is to overcome the present-day global crisis and seek for an opportunity to lead the world. And furthermore, please allow me to introduce our great speakers for today's session. For the first session is the opening remarks from the coordinator of Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance, Mr. Fadlan Muzaki. And for the first speaker is the Mr. Theodorus Alvin Wiryadi as the coordinator of Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance in Asia and Oceania. And for the second speaker is the Mr. Muhammad Fajar Haki Ismaya as the coordinator of Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance in America and Europe. And for the last speaker is the Mr. Nezar Ahmad Zarkashi as the vice coordinator of Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance in Middle East and Africa. Before we begin, on behalf of the Ambassadors and Young Leaders Week Committee, I would like to express my gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and deep appreciation to all of the committees for only within 1 month since last May until nowadays to spend a lot of time, energy, and ideas to prepare this event. It is not easy to organize this event within a short period of time, but with all of our efforts, hard work, and support from many people, the event has been started today. So the reason behind this event is we want to move forward towards global competition by making international webinars that use English as the primary language and Bahasa Indonesia as the secondary language. So with that reason, hopefully this event will be a milestone for Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance to open up an international forum in the future. So last but not least, on behalf of the committee, we would like to thank again to all of you, and we hope that you will enjoy this event. Thank you. So before I pass to the moderator, please welcome Mr. Fadlan Muzaki as the coordinator of Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance to give the opening remarks. So for the stage is yours for Mr. Fadlan Muzaki.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to say again, good evening in Indonesian time, or good morning, good afternoon in other parts of the world, because this is the international webinars, international seminars that really interact me at the beginning of, but I mean, like the committee at the first time when they express their idea, when they want to introduce our beloved organization into international community. And I really happy that our event now already held, and tonight in Indonesian time we will open this event officially. I think I will not express the formal one because I firmly believe that there is some of my friends who already wait for like sometimes regarding to the story that I have. As we probably know, maybe it's not only happened to me, but it's almost happened to every members committee or main committee in the Overseas Indonesian Students Association Alliance in every level. Why I thought like that? Because like based on my experience that I'm always asked by my friends, my classmates, my roommates, my flatmates, what, hi Fadlan, why you are so easy? Why you are so busy? Why you are always in the front of laptop? What you're talking about? What is that? And I'm telling that this is the Indonesian Students Association Alliance, and we are coordinated 57 countries throughout the world and more than 100,000 students coordinated to each other, and then they are really, they are really wonder like how we can coordinate to each other, and then they really wonder um, if we can arrange the organization or if we can arrange the international conference or some events with the international language, which is English language. So that's why I told you that today I'm so happy and keep spirit for the committee, because this is the beginning. We still have a week, because like the title or like the name of the event, the ambassador and young leader week. So we will have a broad knowledge, or I mean, we will have a broad, a good, and a good and in-depth discussion regarding the current issues. As we probably know that COVID-19 still happen in a great number of countries, and as we probably know, the new normal same is already prepared for some countries, especially for Indonesia, in our beloved countries. So what I want to express um, is a part of preparing the new normal and a part of combating the COVID-19 virus. We are, as Indonesian students or as Indonesian youth staying or studying abroad, we want to give more contribution, not only for Indonesia, because giving the contribution to Indonesia is also is is a main fundamental responsible for us, but also want to contribute by sharing the ideas and sharing what we have done or what we will do or what we are doing to the international community, because it is really important. Back to the history, when Bung Hatta, um, our first vice president, Indonesian first vice president, become the leader of this organization. The organization tried to introduce the goals or the objective to the international community, especially to the European citizens. And we expressed at the time we want to be independent, and then it happens in the next several decades. And the purpose here is also similar with the purpose in the colonialized era, when Bung Hatta, when our uh, first vice president lead this organization. Our goals is not to keep the independence, but our goals is to develop the idea and develop the talks from our friends, colleagues, the leaders, and also the ambassadors to give the contribution for Indonesian development in some sectors or in a number of sectors, such as health, economic development, education, so on and so forth. So last but not least, please enjoy the event, please enjoy the discussion, because it will increase our knowledge, of course, and then it will increase the network from our surroundings. It's not only for the local network, but also for international networks. So by saying Bismillah, I would like to open this event officially. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, I think that's all. Thank you very much. Keep spirit for the committee, and please enjoy in-deep discussion and the focused discussion that we will listen after this. And thank you, everyone. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you for Mr. Fadlan Muzaki for the opening remarks. So before we start, I would like to inform to you that in this event, we are also raising funds for COVID-19, so especially for our medical team who are at the forefront in fighting COVID-19. So if you want to donate, please revert to the bank account number or scan the QR code as shown below or on your screen. So thank you very much to all of you who have contributed to the donation. So without any further information, I will pass the event to our moderator, Mr. Bani Arijan and Mr. Radityo Dharma Putra. So for the event, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaki Makarim, as Master of Ceremony in this event. Hopefully, we can through this agenda as well as we plan. And allow me please to introduce myself. My name is Bani Arijan, and thank to Allah has given me trust and facility to learn in Sudan. And as we know, we have distinguished guests as speaker in this golden opportunity, Your Excellency Mr. Theodorus Alvin Wiryadi, as Court of Overseas Indonesian Students Association in Asia and Oceania. Is he with us right now?
Hi, good evening.
How are you, Mr. Wiryadi?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Arjan.
You're
Thank
good.
you. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And without any longer, we would like to listen your presentation about Indonesian scholar roles in national development from abroad uh, to foremost island and with 15 minutes length. And if the audience in anywhere want to ask or give any question, please leave in comment following by the question. And thank you very much. So the stake is yours, Mr. Wiryadi.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Now, for my presentation, I would like to share my screen with you guys, with all of you here and all of you watching on YouTube. Okay. Can everyone see the screen? Okay. So I would like to say thank you
Yes,
for
I
this
can
occasion, for the
see.
committee, by the committee chairman, Mr. Zaki, and for all of the moderator and everyone who has participated. First of all, I would like to say good evening and thank you for the chance. So, in this occasion, I would like to talk of how we as youth could do to our beloved country in the near future. So, in 2045, which is 25 years from now, Indonesia will have its centennial, which is its 100th anniversary. It's not so distant future, considering that time keeps ticking from now. And 25 years from now, as many predicted, our country will be at great advantage, a chance we should not miss, but instead we should embrace them, preparing for the best yet to come. So, a little bit about myself. Okay, so, a little bit about myself. My name is Theodorus Alvin. You can call me Theo or Alvin. I'm 22 years old, now I'm serving as the coordinator of Asia and Oceania region in Overseas Indonesian Students Alliance Association. I'm studying in Japan right now for bachelor's degree on information science. And before taking on this role, I used to be active at Indonesian Students Association in Japan. And I used to be the secretary general there. Then after that, I was After I finished my term, I came to PPI Dunia here and served as the coordinator for Asia and Oceania region. Okay, so a bit of numbers here. In 2045, we will have 319 million total population. That might sound a lot, but on a positive note, 70% of our population will be on productive age, at the range of 15 to 64 years old. They could work, they could perform their duties, and they could sustain themselves in the society. Oftentimes, experts refer to this phenomenon as demographic bonus. So why is it a bonus, you might ask? As a developing country, we will be flourishing in terms of manpower. While other developed countries on the future will start losing their citizens of productive age. And they need to start thinking of how to support those in retirement. With such population plus the fact that cities will be more urbanized than before, means industry as well as business seek opportunities to make use of our productive population. That will lead to economic growth. More and more are being produced and performed by the productive citizen, which will bring us up to the fourth largest GDP by then, just below China, India, and the US. But for this to actually happen, the government shall set up several points of improvement in order for them to plan further, preparing the necessary to embrace our newly found potential on global stage. And these are the four pillars as mentioned by Mr. President Joko Widodo. The first point is crucial. Plenty of developed countries are relying on their qualified human capital. Once my professor in Japan in my university said something that I still kept to this day. She said that Japan has no natural resources. It can only rely on people's head to think, meaning that Japan, with its scarcity of natural resources, still got its human capital. And even with that concern, Japan is leading the world on their asset, which is human capital, plus, and they excel on science and technology, which I would like to discuss further on this session. And along with that comes the need for sustainable and equitable development for the whole country. We can still visibly witness unequal development, not on distant land, even in cities where slums sit next to high-rise building. And this need to cease if we want to keep the momentum going. I think the government has done the right direction of building infrastructure on underdeveloped region. That, of course, leads to the fourth point, which is that couldn't happen if the government itself is complicated inside out. The paperwork needs to speed up so that execution may happen faster. So, Mr. President Joko Widodo has mentioned about transforming inefficient and underperformed civil servants and replacing them by artificial intelligence to the world. I really think that the president's initiative line up very well with what I'm about to discuss. So, science, technology, and research. So, having been an information science student and previously on natural science on high school, science and technology has always been my point of interest, being the first pillar toward 2045 Indonesia. It is time for science, technological advancement, and research to flourish on our motherland. And with that comes great effort towards transformation. So the Ministry of Research and Technology shall play the crucial part on making scientific research thrive. First step is to manage all the organs while figuring out how the workflow. To this day, one of the three main issues has always been lack of proper planning and objective. The other two being budget and human capital. But that will come to a resolution by clearly defining the ministry's task. With the support of legislative bill on national science and technology system, or Undang-Undang Sistem Informasi Ilmu Pengetahuan dan Teknologi Nasional. Definitely, this will require a long process, but it is better to start certainly than learning when it's possible to do so. Okay, so technology is the moving part of the society. They either fill in the gap of primitive technology or create entirely new things. Our daily lives cannot be further than this innovation. They have become our companion, personal assistant, and at this point, it's hard to imagine going forward without them. Their growth is incredibly rapid. In 2015, Gojek, the ride-hailing app, launches its first mobile application. Today, it is a decacorn company with over 170,000 billion users, just in 5 years. And other companies will keep following each other's footsteps, pushing recently developed into technology into societal needs. This also marks the highlight of 2045, where innovation is key in a swift-paced environment. It will be essentially important to grasp society's flaw and try to develop a new product out of that, combining a mutually required relationship, thus providing a solution. And to prepare ourselves to a 2045, this is the beginning of a milestone. And the Ministry of Research and Technology has set up three objectives in the near future. Technology should be used on its designated ground, not out of place where it could not function properly. They should also be obtainable and accessible to the commoners, not exclusive to those in higher rank, as a tool to improve their industry or business. Democratizing technology to every single one of us will initiate creativity, which leads to something new and useful innovation. That plus some additional bonus will increase its value significantly, or we always say that as added value, generating profit which comes in contact with the national economic growth to the point where we could actually produce ourselves for ourselves and deliver them to other countries who need help. At the end, we should strive to be a producing, not just consuming nations. And one feature that several developed countries have in common is their commitment toward research funding. Indonesia, at this point, allocates only 0.3% of its state budget for research, far below South Korea on 4.3%, Japan on 3.5%, and neighboring Singapore on 2.6%. Not to mention that our state budget is of equal amount. Before 2045, this shall gradually reform and added to match the target. The actors are also part of this reformation. All stakeholders shall be in harmony when it comes to research. Finding a common ground where everyone can play their part successfully, then process will follow after. Each year, more and more Indonesians are choosing the path of becoming researchers, either here in our Indonesia or somewhere else in a foreign country. This is a remarkable sign that we are going in the right direction. In 25 years, the number will keep increasing, and more Indonesians will put interest in doing research as their occupation. Actually doing something with high-tech tools instead of just lecturing students. With secure budget from the government, they will play an active part of shaping the nation's future. So to summarize my point, I would like to convince you this. Science is an investment to the future generation. As Neil deGrasse Tyson said, one of my favorite scientists, it might seem irrelevant at the present and it might be ridiculous at times, but we need to face the future while living in the present. We know that we are behind, but with the assistance of you and me as diaspora students, part of Overseas Indonesian Students Alliance Association, in several years we gain invaluable knowledge of how countries thrive. Being privileged enough to study abroad, there are plenty of methods to give back, promoting joint forces of two institutions, intergovernmental contract, exclusive field study, etc. In the modern age, caring for knowledge is not the only option there is. Transfer of knowledge, practice of knowledge has become more and more accessible. Standing alone means we have insignificant presence, but conjoined together, we are planting seeds for the future Indonesia, making her centennial anniversary an extraordinary one. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and that's all for me.
Nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Wiryadi, for your presentation about this. So excited what we should prepare in how we face 2045 and we should pay more attention in government or industry, university, citizen, and stakeholders. That's so nice, and we so appreciate with your delivery. And thanks a lot, Mr. Wiryadi, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Welcome. So we are stepping to the next speaker, and I will give this part to my partner, Mr. Radit. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Bani Arijan, for giving me the time. My name is Radityo Dharmaputra. I'm from Indonesian Students Association in Estonia. And in this session with our second speaker, I will be the moderator. And also, as a reminder to all the audiences, there will be a question and answer session and also a discussion session with the speakers after all presentation. So for those who have questions, you can write your name and your country or your region in YouTube and followed by your question. Our second speaker today is my good friend, my distinguished speaker, the regional coordinator for America and Europe, Mr. Muhammad Fajar Haki Ismaya, if he's ready here. Yes.
Hello.
Good afternoon, or still afternoon in Turkey, I hope.
Yeah. Yes, right.
Without waiting any longer, I think we can invite you, Mr. Haki, to present your thoughts on, I believe, a very important subject regarding the cooperation between Indonesian government and the Indonesian Student Association. So please, the stage and the time is yours. You have 15 minutes to present your thoughts on this matter.
Thank you, my friend. His Excellency, President of PPI Estonia, OISAA in Estonia, also my area of coordination in OISAA. Okay, let me begin by sharing presentation for all of you. Okay, is it shown, Mr. Moderator?
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
You can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Your Excellency, Coordinator of OISAA, Fadlan Muzaki, and all of my lovely regional coordinators. Here there are Mas Theo and Mas Nezar, and also my friend, my moderator, PPI of Estonia President, Mr. Adityo, and all of the committee of this awesome event. Okay, let me begin by telling you about the title of my thought. It's about OISAA as the strategic diaspora partner to achieve Indonesia's vision 2045. Okay, let me introduce myself. I'm Muhammad Fajar Haki Ismaya, currently coordinator of OISAA in America and Europe region, and also currently pursuing Master of International Relations Department in Kocaeli University, Turkey, sponsored by Türkiye Bursları or Türkiye Bursları scholarship from Turkish government. We can also share in Instagram by my Instagram. You may follow and you can talk each other. Okay, so what is OISAA? OISAA is the abbreviation from Overseas Indonesia Students Association Alliance. In Bahasa Indonesia, it's PPI Dunia. Okay, first is about the problems. Well, it's my problems delivery. OISAA had been established in Netherlands since 1922. As coordinator of OISAA, Mr. Fadlan Muzaki told us that it was established by one of our vice president, Mr. Muhammad Hatta, to help the Indonesian independence movement from overseas to achieve the de jure from all of the states in other countries, especially in Netherlands. And then for OISAA itself, as the world scope, it's established since 2004. And what is our problem right now? In my opinion and my research and my experience about almost 1 year in as the coordinator of OISA in America and Europe region, also integrated body with OISA in the world scope, is the absence of sustainable and holistic cooperation with government of Indonesia. There are a lot of collaboration between OISA and government, unfortunately still partially conducted, not holistic. There is no such a sustainable blueprint from government to cooperate with OISA for achieving Indonesia visions. I'm sorry, that's 2045. There is no also MOU, holistic MOU between government of Indonesia and OISA itself. Okay, the problem is why OISA is a strategic diaspora partner for government of Indonesia in achieving Indonesia's vision 2045. I will come by a theoretical framework from international relations. It's about diaspora. Diaspora concept was found by Gabriel Schaeffer in American Political Science Review in 1976, and also Modern Diaspora in International Politics, published in 1986. Yeah, it's about Jewish people who will do as the diaspora because the threat from some countries at the time. But in short, diaspora also told by history from Greek diaspora to the Chinese diaspora and Indian diaspora today. There are three definitions about diaspora. It's about maintenance, the development of own collective identity, diaspora is people. Second is the existence of internal organization distinct from those existing in the country of origin or in host country. The third is significant contact with homeland and real contact. The brief about diaspora. Now, there are brain gain and brain drain in diaspora concept. What are those? So, from Migrant Institute, yeah, definition of brain gain and brain drain are the movement of skilled workers internationally represents brain gain for the countries that reap their skills and experience, and brain drain for their countries of origin. So if a country get an advantage from its diaspora from overseas, it's called brain gain, in short, and brain drain if our diaspora give more advantages, especially for intellectual human resource in the countries that they live or they study, like what we are doing right now. I do believe it's brain gain for Indonesia. Okay, it's the concept of brain drain. I will share to you if you would like to take my materials after this, but because limited of time. But I want to highlight here that diaspora and brain gain and brain drain phenomenon, it's not only for workers or professionals, but also for students. You can see the bold item that I have highlighted. Well, the other concept as my approach is to answer by theory why OISA is one of the strategic actor for development of our state or our nation. In Pentaholics approach or Pentaholics model based on Sumariani, Pentaholics model is a reference to develop synergy between institutions to optimally support in achieving goals. In many core countries, like in Europe, in America, they already implemented 5 or Pentaholics model. How is in Indonesia? I do believe in the future we have to also see by this approach. By this approach, there are 5 actors. First is government. We can say it's government of Indonesia. The second is business actor. The third is community. The fourth is media. The fifth is academician. Where are OISA? OISA position, there are 2 possibilities. First, as academician, we are all students. We can contribute by our thought, our research, our policy brief, and so on, or also by community. Why by community? Community here means that we can also contribute. We do a lot of programs instead of the only academic research and so on so far. We also like doing even this program today. It's also can be defined as community program. So what is OISAA potential resources, thought, and real action to achieve Indonesia Vision 2045? It's only a brief because I have limited time, but I hope it can enlighten everyone here. So current OISAA countries in the world, we are from east to the west, from the south to the north. Currently, there are 75,509 students. It's based on Pusdatin PPID, or Center of Data Information by OISAA 2020. Based on PPID Keamerop data, we have 31,554 students in America and Europe region. What a big numbers, what a big brain gain potential can contribute to Indonesia's Vision 2045. Okay, OISAA history at glance, like what I said before, it established in Netherlands by our Vice President, and 2004, OISAA as a whole scope already started to establish. Until now, 2020, I'm sorry, we are still running OISAA. Okay, Mr. Radit, I'm sorry, how many time left?
We still have around 3 to 4 minutes, Mr. Haki.
Okay, so I will make it short. OISAA's organization, OISAA is one body organization. So derived to 3 regions: America, Europe, Asia, Oceania, Middle East, and Africa. In total, 57 OISAA in countries. Okay, this is structure of OISAA. Okay, so this is the analysis, one of my analysis. In OISAA, there are a lot of departments like center of, and so on and so forth. For this Center of Administration and Secretary, actually can be collaborate for MOU establishment and procedure with especially government here, what actor that I engage of. And the second is Center of Data and Information. I hope it can be collaborate with Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia to collect Indonesian students' data overseas, like in their program Lapor Diri. So they don't have like doing one by one country. They can do MOU with OISAA itself. And Center of Innovation Business, you can see with Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. Center of Legal collaborate with Ministry of Law. And also there is Center of Research, Study, and Movement, which is holding this program today. There are a lot of commission in education, social culture, foods and economy, commission of youth, which is they can be collaborated with this with the related ministry in Indonesia and also Parliament or DPR. As what? As research and development, because our critical position as a student is to give, thought, research and development ideas itself. Okay, this is a glance about American Europe region. We have 27 countries, or including Estonia, my moderator origins. Okay, so what is the foremost island impact? OISAA had done it already, man, since long years ago. It's 3 of the programs that I can share. For example, Bantu Guru Melihat Dunia. It's a program from OISAA to, empower teachers, inspiring teachers from Indonesia to do, exchange to see how teachers in advanced countries teach and so on and so forth, and come back to Indonesia to contribute. And the second, in Amerop, we have Mentari dari Amerop or ISS. We go to Onitua Kupang, we inspire them, and not only inspire, we give also donation and attract them about the education in overseas. We have also MDR talks, MDR language class, which successfully done. And the last, we have also PPID lawan COVID-19. It means that OISAA movement to counter COVID-19. Yeah, there are a lot of programs to raise the donation also by this program also. Those are only a few sample of our volunteerism to Indonesia. So my analysis and recommendation. First, Indonesia diaspora students are potential brain and energy resources and should be collaborated well to achieve brain gain as human resources to achieve Indonesia's Vision 2045. Second, government of Indonesia should reconsider OISA in a higher position as strategic partner, which able to collaborate all Indonesia diaspora students all over the world which study in the best universities in the world. And the third, government of Indonesia should reconsider. Sorry, it's redundant. It's my typo. The third is government of Indonesia through presidency office. So I hope there will be a blueprint and also MOU, but holistic MOU, one single MOU from president, not from one minister, partially one minister, and so on and so forth. But we can collaborate holistically between government to OISA itself to achieve Indonesian Visions 2045. What OISA had been done, we already contribute a lot of things, but I wish government here can be, more initiative. Why? Because government is the facilitator of our state. There's the main actor of our state. So it's will be more maximum result achieved if government can initiate to make a blueprint and MOU with OISA to achieve Indonesia's visions 2045. By OISA can be placed as the advisors, organizing committees, and research team body to achieve Indonesia's Vision 2045. That's all my presentation. I'm sorry for my mistakes. Time is yours, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haki, for a very interesting presentation and very important subject, I think. You mentioned the problem of brain gain and brain drain as well, and the lack of overarching coordination between the Indonesian government and the student association overseas. And you also propose the idea of a strategic partnership between the government and the Indonesian Association. I think we will have a very, very interesting discussion afterwards. But for the time being, I will give the time back to my friend, Mr. Bani Arijan, from to guide our next speakers. Mr. Bani, the time is yours. Mr. Bani?
Yes,
Yes.
I am.
Okay. Okay. So I will give you. I will give the time back to you for our third speaker, and I will let you introduce our third speaker then. Thank you.
Thank you, my partner, Mr. Radityo Dharmaputra, who has moderated Mr. Fajar Haki in his presentation. So as we heard too, that he delivered us about the history and so on. So we are moving to the next speaker, and I'm willing to give him a greeting. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Ahmad Nezar Zarkashi.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Nice. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
Me too. I'm fine. Good. So this is
Okay.
my pal, my associate, and my friend. And so we would like to hear your presentation, what you have prepared before. So without any longer The stage is yours.
Okay. So first of all, I thank to the moderator for the time, and I'm not forget to give a highest appreciation for the Committee of Overseas Indonesian Student Alliance for organizing this extraordinary event, Ambassador and Young Leaders Week. So before we begin the talk and discussing about Indonesian school roles in national development, allow me please to introduce you myself. I am Nezat Ahmad Zarkashi, as Vice Coordinator of the Overseas Indonesian Student Association Alliance in the Middle East and Africa region. And now I'm Bachelor of Degree at the Islamic University of Medina in Saudi Arabia, Faculty of Sharia. Okay, on this opportunity, we will generally talk and discuss about the Indonesian scholars' roles in national development. So before we talk and discuss deeper about technical, about ideas, suggestion, and input to the government in national development, it is interesting. We want to talk about what kind of role that Indonesian scholars can take when he come back to Indonesia. So, okay, please next slide. Okay, uh, I will talk about rule and national development. The first is a rule. So what kind of rule? So the cooperation, so the national awareness. So history about the role of Indonesian scholars in overseas and national education. So what is the difference between education and teaching? Okay, next slide. Uh, please, next slide, operator. Okay, so what kind of rule can Indonesian scholars in overseas can take when he come back to Indonesia? As we know, toward the national development of Indonesia in 2045, the current role of the young generation will show a hope to realize a sovereign, fair, and prosperous Indonesia. So as the rule prior, young generation today must understand very well the fields that they will take a role for the sake of the country. So in my point of view, there are two basic rules for young generation or two basic sector for young generation in taking part of national development, which are the first is, next slide please. The first is governmental sector. Okay, first is governmental sector. Young scholars can take a role in national development of the government, whose task is to make and compile plans, policies, strategies toward Indonesia 2045. So it can be said as a planner. When we want toward Indonesia development, so about vision Indonesia in 2045, we know that government has have make plans, policies, and strategies about it. So we call it a planner. So the second is non-governmental sector. Non-governmental sector is we know that playing a role in national development can be done not only by sitting in the seat of the government, but also from non-governmental sector. Especially we are now in OISAA, so we make the agenda ambassador and young leader weeks is the one of non-governmental sector. We can contribute by this agenda. So, however, the role outside of the government is very important because those who carry out and realize plans and strategies are inseparable from the role of cooperation between non-government and government. So this is the point. How we make teamwork, how we make the cooperation between non-government and government. So it can be said who take a sector in non-governmental is as a field of executor. So the government make a plans. So who take a part, who take a side from non-governmental is as a executor for the plans. Okay, next slide. So in my point of view, there are the formula of cooperation and complementarity. How we build a good cooperation, how we build a good teamwork between all of the institution of government or non-governmental. There are three. The first is communication. How the government between government and non-governmental sector can make a good communication between them. So there is no wrong communication between government and non-government, between a planner and executor. So then second is coordination. How after we can build a good communication, we must coordination between government and governmental. How we can contribute, and how we can uh, uh, contribute between government and non-governmental with coordination, with a good coordination. So the last is collaboration. I do agree with Mr. Haki, the coordinator of overseas association Indonesian Alliance in Amerot, that he said we must build a collaboration between OISAA and the government. So this is a main thing. This is the good part of this agenda. We can speak up what is our ideas to the government. So next slide, please. So the next question is, when the young generation, or we call it millennial, know where they want take a side, take a sector between government or not government. So how do Indonesian students abroad want and still have the awareness and desire to build the nation? This is the next question. How we put awareness and desire to all of students abroad in all of the world. They want back to Indonesia, they want build the nation, they want develop the Indonesia until we can make Indonesia 2045. In my point of view, next slide please, there are three national awareness that must be posted by Indonesian student abroad, so that it can be applied and implement it in each of us. The first is being conscious of potential resource. We must know. We must know what is the potential resource here, human resource and natural resource in Indonesia. That Mr. Haki said that we have 75,000 students in all of the world. This is a big human resource towards Indonesia 2045. So the second is being conscious of self, social, and national responsibility. How we make, how we put in our head that that's the responsibility to develop the world, develop the nation, to build the nation until we make it to Indonesia 2045 is ourselves. So our social and our national. So we know that this responsibility is in our hand to make Indonesia great again. So the third is being conscious of a role model for the next generation. How we can, uh, uh, every one of us, every person, every students in the world, every young people, every next generation is the role model of the next generation of or the role model of the other person, the role model of the other citizen to build the nation. So next slide, please. Uh, we can study about a history from the past generation that have made diplomacy in Egypt is Mr. Abdul Kahar Muzakir. As you know, he is have started the diplomatic relationship with prominent figures of the Arab world at that time. At, and at the end, Egypt became the first country who recognizing Indonesia independence. So with his experience also impressive when he formed the Greater Indonesia Association, or we call it Perhimpunan Indonesia Raya in Cairo in 1933. So he was honored as the first person become the leader of that organization. So apparently, this organization has a network and relationship with the Indonesian Association in the Netherlands. So the Greater Indonesian Association or Perhimpunan Indonesia Raya has a network and relationship with the Indonesian Association or Perhimpunan Indonesia in Netherlands. So this is the history. We cannot forget it. Okay, next. So if we talk about national development, we know that Mr. Theo has explained about Vision Indonesia 2045 is has four main pillars. The first is human development and mastery of knowledge and technology. Next slide, please. So second is sustainable economic development. The third is equitable development. So strengthening national resilience and governance. So I want focus to the first pillar because the first pillar is becomes the core of the realization of the next three pillars in building human and human resource. It's not enough in just a few years, but it takes decades to build ideal human resource. And the question is how we can build human resource and we can develop the human resource. The answer is by education and teaching. Education and teaching are the only means for formation and development of ideal human resource by referring to the goals of nation education in the 1945 Constitution. Next slide, please. Okay, next. Next. I want to make sure. Okay. I want tell to you all the participant that in the 1945 Constitution, we have a purpose of education. In Article 31, paragraph 3, said that the government strives and organize a national education system which enhances faith and piety as well as noble character in the context of intellectual life of the nation which is regulated by law. So also in paragraph number 5 is the government advance science and technology by supporting the high value of religion and national unity for the advancement of civilization and the welfare of mankind. So we know that how we can make the good human resource is by purpose we see by to the purpose of education. But we must know what kind of education. So what is the difference between education and teaching? Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, next. Okay, so I would like to explain what is the difference between education and teaching. This is on my point of view that education and teaching is different, different world and different implementation to the human. As you know, education in if we make it simple, education is what is seen, heard, experienced, and feel. All of what we see in all of what we heard, experience with it, we call it education. To build a good character. So the implementation of moral and mental education is not sufficient, simple by speaking, but must be a good example and the creation of the environment and all what the students see and what they hear of the movement and voice is in the society is a factor of moral and mental education. So we know education that is, and what is a teaching? Teaching is to deliver of information to the minds of students. See, the difference is education is we make it example. We do it. Uh, the last is to build the good character. So the teaching is deliver of information, deliver of knowledge to the mind of students, and putting your portfolios with issues of art and science. This is two different worlds and two different working to implement to student. Next slide, please. So maybe this is the focus of me that we must build a good education, a good education character. But for the last, this is maybe statement from what I have, what I get in the past when I study in one of boarding school in Indonesia. That my teacher and my kiai said that the method is more important than the subject, and the teacher is more important than the method. Then the spirit of the teacher is more important than the teacher himself. If we uh, uh, if we well, as we know that we are a citizen in Indonesia and we want to make Indonesia great again and national development. What is the spirit of Indonesia's citizen? What is the spirit of to state in the state to building the nation? From my point of view, that the spirit to build a nation is we must possess Pancasila in our heart and in our daily life. This is maybe what I can deliver to you all. Thank you. I give the time to my friend, the moderator, Mr. Bani.
Nice. Thanks a lot for your uh, interesting presentation about the preparation, of course, about scholars' role in national development from abroad to foremost island. So I found here a kind of similarity between Mr. Nezard and Mr. Wiryadi with the presentation about what is the what is the very important thing that roles in government has playing in Indonesia especially. So we found here is formulas of corporation that we must need to pay attention in communication, coordination, and collaboration. So one more thing, so this is important too to build the soul of nationality of citizen of Indonesian is how we build our character, how we love our nation, our languages, our skin, our color, and what we have from culture. And here we are, what we can prefer to face or what we should do before 2045 for national development. So now, Alhamdulillah, thanks to God, we have arrived into a Q&A section. So Q&A session, and about this discussion or Q&A, my friend, my pal, Mr. Radit will guide this session. So, Mr. Radit, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Bani. I think we can also include Mr. Haki here. I mean, I think we can. I don't know. We can we put all the speakers together? Yes. Thank you so much. I think it's very interesting when I listen to all the speakers' presentation. You mentioned different things, different subjects, different aspect of what needs to be done to achieve this 2045 vision. I think, as my friends Mr. Bani said, Mr. Theodorus and Mr. Nezar already emphasized the role of scholars, and also Mr. Haki touched very different things in this kind of understanding or the strategic partnership between the government and the student. What I'm trying to do here is we have two sessions, actually, the discussion and then the question and answer session. With the discussion, I think we have several questions. At least I have several questions to the speaker, which highlights the different sector that you mentioned. So I would like to ask to all of you, which one do you think more important? Do you think it is more important to build the character first, as Mr. Nezar already mentioned, or build the scholar's ability, or in I think technology, or in the knowledge that we can learn from overseas, like Mr. Theo has mentioned, or we can choose to focus more on this kind of cooperation between government and students. Which sectors do you think is more important? Or I think we all agree that all are important, but we have to focus on one priority over the other. If you have to choose, which one you would choose? The character of the scholars, the ability, the knowledge, or the cooperation between government and scholars? I think I will move to Mr. Theo first, because you speak first as our first speaker. So if you could comment on that.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Adityo. I think, as I said earlier, that I think that research is an investment. But first, before we invest to that, we should invest on the human capital, which is the researcher. So we fund their research. We start giving them higher education, sending them to prestigious school abroad, so that they could learn the proper method of researching, and then they should find the solution to the existing problem through that innovation. So innovation helping to fix the problem we are facing right now. So I think the focus should be first on it's building the human capital, but right now we are looking at a positive trend where researchers numbers keeps going up every year. But yeah, we need to give them more opportunities to touch on the real subject, which is the research, and they should I mean, they should experience like a real researcher, like to solve a problem through innovation. So yeah, I think that's my opinion on the subject.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Theo. Move to. I think it's a very clear answer that we have to focus on the researcher first, than on the other aspect. I would then move to Mr. Haki. Do you agree with that, or do you think that it is more important to build, because we already have a lot of researchers in all the regions, in Europe, in America, in Asia, in Africa. Do you think it's more important to build the capability of the researcher, or we can let that part, or that task to the researcher themselves, and then the organization, we focus more on the organization? I think that's what you mentioned
Well,
before in your
yeah. Thank you very much. It's a good question from you. I think I must agree with Mr. Theo. Yeah, research. Why? Because we are students. But the most critical thing is it's not about the research itself. It's not about the field, but it's about the government giving place to our students in all over the world, to any kind of institutions in Indonesia, as R&D or research and development resources. We don't have such a big place for that. So I mean the advantages will go to countries that we are studying. So the critical things, I think, is not about the field, but it's about the place that should be given by government. That's why in my presentation, based on my experience in leading OISAA in Amerop as a part of integral body in OISAA, is having like agreement framework or collaborative framework between our institutions. That's my point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haki. I think this also leads to a point that I would like to ask Mr. Nezar about his position on the importance of scholars and the character. I think Mr. Nezar highlights a very different aspect of being scholars, being researchers, being an Indonesian student overseas. One important thing is this kind of a character building. Do you still think that it is more important to build the character, or is it secondary to building the I don't know, the knowledge and the technological capability of the researcher, or the government support to that kind of research, or do you still think that the character is the most important thing, Mr. Nezar?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Radit, that this is a good question. How the good character can make a difference between researchers and student abroad and student overseas. I said that not we focus or we said that our focus to how to build the character and we throw the other part. No, but I said that I can say at its level will have a different focus. We say that to build character, we must build from we say this pre-elementary school or SD, SMP, SMA. This is for building character, and except without education, we must teaching. So why I talk about education and teaching? It is different, but it must be done together. How we can work together according to what our respective or what our specialty in education or teaching. as I am a student in Middle East and Africa, may I say I study about Sharia. So, and the other world, they study about technology, they study about industry, they study about many things others. We can work together. We can work together and we can complete each other with our speciality. Not we not just we focus to build character, not, but we must work together and each level have a different focus. So then the government take a side and take a sector to this one. The government has must build the blueprint and grand plan to make what kind of focus to each level when like we are we study in the world, in Arab Saudi, in Europe, in Asia. What is the focus of us, or what is the focus of level SD, SMP, SMA? I think that's one.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the speakers to respond to that first question, which actually brings me to another point regarding the role of youth and the role of our role actually in helping the government to realize this 2045 vision. So I think we all agree that we have a role to play, but to some extent, at least based on my knowledge and based on what we discussed before with our friends, many students actually give the responsibility to the government. I think Mr. Haki mentioned that before, that the government must play a bigger role in this kind of situation. That government must at least play a greater roles in terms of providing funding for research, giving chances to the students. I think Mr. Teo also mentioned that. Do you think it's government's role which is bigger, or it is our role which is bigger? Before we give that to the government, I think we can also do that by ourselves. So what do you think? What can we actually do without depending on the government in this case? I think we can start with in a different order. Probably Mr. Neza could start. Do you think what do you think is our most important role without depending on the government?
If we talk about what is the critical and most role in realizing Indonesian development and or Indonesian vision in 2045, I think that we back to what we study in our nation. That's it. If we study about Sharia, I am study about Sharia, so I can make and I can realizing my knowledge when I come back to Indonesia, when I teach the students, when I teach to santri, I said santri because I'm from boarding school and I came back to boarding school. So maybe Mr. Haki can come back to another place. So we can make a good collaboration between what is our place, where is our place. That's it. Not by focusing maybe all of the student overseas uh, uh, or come back to Indonesia and they go to one place. No, but what we study in our nation, so we make it real in our place. So we can make collaboration between us. This one, I think.
Okay, thank you so much. So that's actually very interesting because we also have several questions in YouTube regarding that. But I think I will move to Mr. Haki first. After that, do you think that's the way forward? So we we focus on our study, we return to Indonesia, and we contribute to our country? Or is there any other way we can help the government without depending on them? Mr. Haki.
Well, thank you for the questions. What can we do as and should we dependable to government? No, of course not. But in my concern is how government start first as the regulator. We are not the regulator to give place for us. It's not like occupation jobs. No, it's about the cooperation blueprint. We can work it from outside the country, like right now, maybe in each of our host country. The other point is, should anyone, Indonesian student diaspora, come back to Indonesia? In wisely, I have to say that if there are places for you, and if you may open or establish your own place, like business or building foundations, something like that. If you are capable to do that, please come back to Indonesia and contribute. But it's a real world that not everyone can come back because they have family, they have jobs. It doesn't mean that they don't want to come back. They can't, at least until now, maybe if there is condition like that. But could they still help Indonesia from outside? Sure. For example, as lecturer, they can open cooperation with Indonesian institutions, or for us, maybe the closest area is doing research about Indonesia, publish it, discuss it with foreign people. That's a simple thing that we can do. Why? But in extreme way, actually, in my thought, as you know, international relations student, academician, every diaspora, not all diaspora should go back to Indonesia. Why? We still need representative in outside the country. Let's study from India case. Based on data, based on times of India, 36% of workers in NASA is Indian. CEO of Microsoft right now, Satya Nadella, is Indian. CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, that everyone Googling from this Google uncle is Indian, even their American company. CEO of MasterCard, Indian, and a lot of Indian diaspora working in America. They still contribute to the nation. So I do believe that in extreme way, in political way, to develop our countries, not every diaspora should go back. It's outside of the condition, personal condition. That's all my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very, very interesting answer as well. Quite differently than I expect, but that's a very interesting point. I'll move to Mr. Theo before we go to the question and answer session. Mr. Theo, do you think it is? Do you agree with what Mr. Haki and Mr. Nezat already mentioned, that either you can contribute by going back to Indonesia, using your knowledge that you achieve in your study overseas, or you can also contribute by staying overseas and doing, I don't know, research, doing work? Do you agree with that, or do you have any additional points to what they already mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. As I as I said on my presentation, you don't have to bring knowledge back home. Right now, at this moment, you can just transfer knowledge, or just practice the knowledge either in Indonesia or overseas, because now you have technology. You can make and also in addition to that, we are now in a globalized world, so borders are disappearing in between countries, making cooperation contracts, it's much easier these days than back then. So the answer is, yeah, obviously you don't have to come back to Indonesia if you want to contribute. You can still contribute here. Like the example that Mr. Coordinator of American Europe said about Indians being excel at computer and flourishing in America. We can do that too. Like, yeah, in Japan, in my country, there are plenty of Indonesian researchers actually, and they held high position in the universities. Either like there might be some of them are associate professor, some of them are even professor, some of them even work for the Japanese government because they excel on that field. And it that you don't either, so yeah, you don't need to come back. Sometimes in Indonesia you don't have the technology yet, but in other country you have it and you have the knowledge. So the knowledge and the technology, when it comes together, it brings a great outcome. Rather than you come back to Indonesia, you have the knowledge, but you can only teach it to other people while you don't have the technology to do it with. So yeah, it's either way, it's depends on your condition. But the point is, you can contribute as a diaspora. You can contribute for anywhere in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Theo. I think that's a very important statement, and I think we all agree that wherever we are, we can contribute to our beloved country. So I think we can move on to the questions from YouTube. Several questions, actually a lot of questions. I noticed there are more than four questions. So I think one of the interesting questions is the first one from Miss Zafira. A lot of people, a lot of Indonesian students studying abroad, studying overseas, many of them also think or perceive that our country, that Indonesia is a lost cause. Okay, just leave Indonesia. Do not care about contributing, and do not care about going back or even having to deal with Indonesia anymore. And this happens to not just a small number of people, but many people as well. What would you say? She asked, what would you say to the Indonesian scholars studying overseas who perceive that the country, I think the country means Indonesia in this case, that Indonesia is a lost cause and better left on its own? I would not ask you to. I mean, if you can comment on that, I would not ask in a direct order. So anyone wants to comment on that is very welcome. Otherwise, I would maybe I would ask Mr. Haki first, because we always start from Mr. Nezar and Mr. Theo. I would ask Mr. Haki to comment first. What would you say to them?
Well, should we leave Indonesia by itself?
You already have a good living condition abroad. Some of my friends already stayed in Estonia. They live in Estonia. They work in an Estonian company. They don't want to go back to Indonesia. They don't really care much about Indonesia anymore. Do you think? What would you say to them?
Well, that's a real condition in some cases.
Yeah.
I met too in Turkey. So that's a real condition. My friends in Indonesia, if you are studying abroad and meet with some diaspora that don't want to go back, even don't want to care about Indonesia, that's a fact. But everyone has its choice. Me, as Indonesian student, as Indonesian kid, that firstly breathed the beautiful air is from Bogor, Indonesia. So I never forget it. A lot of lovely people in Indonesia makes me, until today can grow. Every memories and everything. There's too much things that I cannot say that here. I mean, Indonesia is everything for me. I think so for everyone. But for the people that think differently, that's their choices. I cannot blame them. But we, as Indonesian students, I encourage Never leave where you were born. Never leave where you will firstly grow. Never leave your first love. It's Indonesia. So that's my answer.
That's very, very provocative answer in highlighting the love to Indonesia. Mr. Nezat, could you also, do you have anything to add to that? And do you think you can persuade all those people that they don't want to go back to Indonesia? They don't care much about Indonesia once they had their job abroad. Can you say anything to them?
Okay, well, I meet so with the person who don't want back to return to Indonesia. But maybe I will say that yes, I agree that this is the fact in abroad. If we study in maybe in Turkey or Saudi Arabia or in Japan, we'll meet this person. But I would say that the best of humans is what is beneficial to the others. So even you don't come back, you don't return to Indonesia, but uh, do not be detrimental or do not detrimental in of Indonesia. You can still make the name of Indonesia in abroad big with your work, your potential, or whatever it is. So maybe that is from me.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Nezar. I think that's also important for us to at least tell those people that you can still if even if you don't want to go back, even if you don't want to contribute, at least you don't become an obstacle or being a detrimental to Indonesia. Do you have any additional point on that, Mr. Theo? Or what should we say to those people?
Yeah, so very good question from YouTube, as usual. And I think that, well, it depends on how you perceive it. If you want stable, if you want social security, if you want stable income with high income, if you want a healthy life, a healthy environment where you can drink the tap water, then yeah, you can go abroad and just left Indonesia because obviously we don't really have social security, we don't have security in the environment. But if you perceive that Indonesia is a lost cause, then we had like nothing on it, no potential of growth, like no, but like people think it's gonna go south at some point. Personally, I perceive it differently. Why is Indonesia like so empty with nothing at all? Yeah, because it's underdeveloped. It's still underdeveloped. It's a new country. We were born in 1945. Compared to France, compared to Japan, compared to China, who already existed thousands of years ago. So if you think that at this point Indonesia is a lost country, I think you're judging too quickly because we're still young. We're not even 100 years old, and it's our. So it means that with that point in mind, we are still young, meaning that we as citizens we can still take an active part and a big part on building this country. You can Indonesia is like compared. I live in Japan, but I feel nauseated in Japan actually because everything is so settled. Like I don't have any chance to do anything because everything is already at this place. But in Indonesia, I see a lot of potential. I see a lot of opportunity to do anything. Many things are still underdeveloped here, so that's a big that's a big chance to do something big here.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Theo. I think we have one last question. I'm really sorry, a lot of questions in YouTube, but we do have a time restriction. So just one last question from YouTube is regarding the role of government and role of bureaucracy. There are two questions that I think are connected. From Ms. Zafira and from Ms. Raisita. is Indonesia ready to accommodate the resources needed by the Indonesian overseas scholars? Again, I think this touch what Mr. Theo already mentioned before, that the Indonesian government is not ready to support the government, the overseas scholars. And what do you think they should do? Do you think they should, again, touching on Mr. Theo and Mr. Haki point, do you think they should create, I don't know, another new organizations coordinating the students overseas with our organization, with the OISAA, or whether, I don't know, do you think anything can be done on that aspect? Because this is a problem. This is a problem when when you return to Indonesia, you don't have the job, or you don't have the positions to contribute. When you are overseas, the government left you to your own self. They don't really support that much. Do you have any suggestion to the government? I think we can start with okay. We circling around. Mr. Nezar could start first then.
Okay. I think that it must Indonesia ready to accommodate for the resource needed by Indonesia overseas scholars. This is the job of the government to be ready to accommodate the resource of Indonesian scholars abroad. If we not accommodate by government, so how we can contribute to the country? So it must we have to must look for the place for contribute and the sector in government or non-governmental sector. Maybe because I'm already know where I come back when I return to Indonesia. Maybe it's not a difficult thing, but I see that must be difficult thing for student abroad to return to Indonesia and find a place to contribute to the country. But it is the job for the government to be ready to accommodate the human resource from abroad. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nezar. Mr. Theo, would you also?
Yes, so I heard several years, I think last year, that the government is trying to build an organization specially designed to accommodate the needs of Indonesian diaspora. But I don't know where they are at this point now. If any government official are watching this, I wish that still continues. Or if you are watching this, I wish that you could reach out to PP Dunia and we could contribute on some. We could do something together. That would be great. But yeah, I think I honestly think that the government is not ready yet to accommodate the diaspora with advanced knowledge and with advanced research. So right now the thing that realistically we can do is to make international cooperation of joint research, of joint government program. That's the most realistic things right now, because carrying so much diaspora back home and leaving them stranded is not going to solve anything. And I believe that right now the most realistic thing to do is just to make international cooperation. Then in the future, when we are ready, we have the technology, we have the human resource, then we can send them back home. But now we also have like companies like maybe Tokopedia or Bukalapak or other unicorns that are ready. They have the technology, they have the human capital, they have the fund as well. So for the other solution is to send them to the Indonesian diaspora, the potential one, to those company, because it's Indonesian company and they can do their things, with their advanced knowledge and their advanced research. They could do it in the company, not in Indonesia, but it will indirectly contribute to the country.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Haki, would you also jump in on that question? what should we do then? Or do you think the government is ready to accommodate our research needs?
Well, our government, I think, still not ready. I have to say like that. But we can start from where? From their side to OISA as a strategic partner and realize the blueprint of collaboration. We can start from that place. It can be connected to all of the evaluation, recommendation that actually cannot be finished by three of us here and also Mr. Moderator. So my point is, I wish that, like Mas Theo said, government body watching this, attractive dialogue about the development of diaspora, especially for students, through OISA as a whole, as a holistic organization. And I believe if it is started in the future, we can be strengthened together, realize, the preparation for receiving our diaspora from outside to properly, to smartly contribute for Indonesia. And maybe last statement, Indonesian students diaspora is a strategic and important part if this potential may be used by the government itself. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Haki. I think we are running out of time, so I would ask all of the speakers to give a closing statement, 2 minutes at maximum, with regard to the last questions from Mr. Ressa. What would you do for real in persuading our friends, our colleagues abroad to actually do something for Indonesia? What would you do for real? And I would like you to have your closing statement with that with that problems in mind. I think we can start from the first speaker. So I will give it to Mr. Theo. Closing statement and a short comment on what would you do for real to contribute to Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay. So I believe that government is already going to the right direction on this issue, on the research and diaspora issue by creating an organization, and also the Ministry of Research and Technology creating a master plan for research plan until 2045 and even further. I think the government should continue on doing this. We as a citizen of Indonesia, while the government is doing their part, we can also do our part by doing our research properly, by doing research that are meaningful, that are useful to the citizens of Indonesia, that can solve their problems, and we promote them to the government so that the government, I believe that the government has too many things to handle, that it's even hard for us to reach out to them unless you are insider. So doing something that's really meaningful, the government will point out at you and maybe they will reach out like, hey, do you want to work for us or do something for us? We will help you like truly. And with that fact that we as a citizen, we can only do our part. We can do our responsibility. We can do our duty as a researcher, as a students. We have many brilliant idea. We have many brilliant idea, and we have the manpower to do it. As I said before, in 2045, there are like 70% of productive manpower in Indonesia. We are part of it. We are part of the productive manpower, And by conjoining together, collaborating interfield with different fields, collaborating with different fields and different with people of different background, that will smoothen out the process. That will lead us somewhere to thrive in to contribute in the end to contribute something in Indonesia. It will take time, obviously, but it's better to start now than doing nothing and just complaining to the government, telling them what we should do. So I think yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Theo. Mr. Haki, a short closing statement from your side, 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So, what did I do since the beginning of? I was the part of OISAA organizers, and now in America and Europe region, we have 27 presidents of OISAA in countries, and also my PPIDK office. One of them is Mas Reza itself. From the beginning, without waiting the government, we already developed a lot of programs for Indonesia. We don't get any advantage, money, or anything like that. That's not our goals. We did because we want to contribute real to Indonesia, either either by offline or online. And what will I do? I will continue this as my part with my team, my friends in America and Europe region. So I will never stop to contribute to Indonesia. Maybe after finishing from my position now, coordinator of OISAA in America and Europe region, I will continue in other part, especially in academician. Thank you very much. That's all from me.
Thank you, Mr. Haki. Last but not least, to Mr. Nezar, for your closing, 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, for my last statement is, we know as a student and prepare to prospective human resource in develop the nation. In addition to our focus on national development, we also built a sense of unity between different occupation of or rules in building the nation, but not that's just by build a sense of unity, but also complementing each other in building a nation and not underestimating or topping other rules. We must complementing each other in our speciality in national development. But that's all from me.
Thank you so much for all the speakers for the closing statement. As a conclusion, the organizer asked me to give the conclusion, but I think there are several things all the speakers already mentioned that we have to contribute one way or another to our beloved country. We can go back to Indonesia, start contributing in our own field. We can also stay abroad, stay overseas, and trying to contribute by doing our best as either as a researcher, as a worker, or other occupation, other works we do overseas. But there is also one thing that by studying overseas, we do have a different way of seeing the problems, because by studying overseas, we usually have a global mindset, because we met other people, we met other students from other countries. So that's our privilege, and that's our privilege as an Indonesian student overseas, and we can't let that go easily. We have to do something with that privilege, because we have the privilege to studying abroad, to have a global perspective. Then we have to do something to do something in return to our country. We can't really say, okay, we will leave the country and we don't care about that anymore. But we do have to do something real, and that's the challenge for all of us, I think, for ourselves as a student, and also for our organization, Indonesian Student Association in many countries, and for the bigger organization, the Overseas Indonesian Students Association Alliance. How do we contribute realistically or in a very practical way, using all our knowledge and all uh, our result of study. With that statement, I think I would thank all our speakers. Thank you for the excellent and again very engaging topic and very interesting thoughts. Again, unfortunately, our time is up. I will return the event to the Master of Ceremony, Mr. Zaki. Karim, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for the Mr. Adityo and Mr. Bani Arijan as the moderators, and also for all of the speakers. So I think this night is interesting discussion because every speakers, each of the speakers, they have their own perspective. They have their own frameworks. They have their own opinion based on their experience, based on their observations about what's going on, what's problem that happen nowadays, especially for Indonesian diaspora, Indonesian student that they study in overseas. So yes, we are now reaching in final sessions. So again, thank you very much to all of the speakers, moderators, and viewers that who are willing to attend from the beginning to the end of the event. A high appreciation for all of organizing committee, our supporting team, and also our media partner. Before I close the event, I would like to inform everyone one last time that we are also raising funds for COVID-19, especially for our medical team who are at the forefront in fighting COVID-19. So if you want to donate, please refer to the bank account number or scan the QR code as shown below on your screen. So thank you very much. It is interesting discussion. Thank you for all the speakers. Hope you guys can get the benefit, can get the variety perspective for this discussion. So thank you very much for all of you that contributed to the donation. So don't forget, we still have another event waiting for you for the next 6 days. So nice to meet you all and see you in our next event. So wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.